Before you listen to this story, let me ask you something. Have you ever taken a photo on your phone and later found a picture that you don't remember taking? Most of the time, it's probably just a mistake. Maybe you accidentally pressed the camera button, but what if the photo shows something that hasn't happened yet? And what if the person in that photo is you? Before we continue with the story, please like and subscribe. Thank you. Daniel Carter had always believed that photographs captured more than just images. They captured moments that would never exist again. A smile that lasted only 1 second. A shadow that disappeared when the sun moved behind the clouds. A stranger walking past you who you would never see again. Daniel loved that idea. He loved the thought that his camera could freeze time. That was the reason he became a photographer. At 29 years old, Daniel worked as a freelance photographer. His jobs varied depending on who hired him. Sometimes he photographed restaurants or small businesses for online promotions. Sometimes he shot travel photos for magazines. And sometimes he simply wandered through cities and small towns taking pictures of whatever caught his attention. Daniel preferred working alone. Photography was the only thing that truly quieted his mind. Late one October evening, Daniel returned to his small apartment after spending the entire day shooting photos downtown. The air outside was cold, and a light rain had begun to fall over the city. Streetlights reflected off the wet pavement, creating golden streaks across the dark road. Daniel climbed the stairs to his apartment on the 3rd floor and unlocked the door. Inside, the room was quiet. His apartment was small but comfortable, a couch near the window. A wooden desk covered in camera equipment, and shelves filled with old photo albums. Daniel dropped his backpack beside the desk and stretched his tired arms. "Long day," he muttered to himself. He walked to the kitchen and poured himself a cup of coffee. Even though it was already late, Daniel rarely slept early. Editing photos often kept him awake until 2 or 3 in the morning. He sat down at his desk and picked up his camera. It was his favorite possession, a professional mirrorless camera he had saved months to buy. Daniel turned it on and began scrolling through the photos he had taken earlier that day. The first images showed a busy street in the afternoon, cars passing by, people walking across crosswalks. Neon signs glowing in storefront windows. Daniel zoomed into one photo of an old bookstore. The warm yellow light from inside the building spilled onto the sidewalk. "Not bad," Daniel whispered. He kept scrolling, more photos appeared. A musician playing guitar in the subway, a couple laughing in a cafe, a stray cat sitting beside a streetlight. Each image captured a small piece of life. Moments that would disappear forever once the day ended. But then Daniel reached the final photo in the gallery. He paused. His eyebrows slowly tightened in confusion. "I don't remember taking this." The image on the screen showed a dark road at night. Fog covered the ground. A single streetlight stood in the distance, casting a pale yellow glow onto the pavement. The road was empty, except for one person standing in the middle. Daniel leaned closer to the camera screen. The person in the photo looked familiar, too familiar. His stomach tightened as he zoomed in on the image. The figure wore a dark jacket, a small backpack, and messy dark hair. Daniel's breathing slowed. The man in the photograph looked exactly like him. Daniel stared at the camera screen in silence. For several seconds he didn't move. The figure in the photo looked identical to him, same height, same clothing, same posture. It even looked like the same backpack he had dropped beside the desk earlier. Daniel leaned back in his chair and laughed quietly. "Okay, that's strange. Maybe someone who looked like him had walked into the frame. That happened sometimes. People around the world often resembled each other." Still, something about the photo made Daniel uncomfortable. The road in the picture looked familiar, but he couldn't immediately remember where it was. Daniel zoomed further into the image. That's when he noticed something else. Behind the figure standing in the middle of the road, there was something in the darkness. At first it looked like nothing more than a shadow. But when Daniel increased the brightness on the screen, a shape slowly appeared. A tall figure, standing several meters behind the man in the road. The figure's outline was faint, almost hidden by the fog, but it was definitely there, watching. Daniel felt a cold sensation crawl up his spine. Did someone walk into the background? He checked the photo again. The shape looked wrong, too tall, too thin, almost unnatural. Daniel shook his head. "You're overthinking." He pressed the information button on the camera to check the photo details. The timestamp appeared on the screen. Daniel froze. The photo had been taken at 10:19 p.m. Daniel slowly turned his head toward the digital clock on his desk. The time read 10:14 p.m. He blinked, then looked back at the camera. The timestamp didn't change. 10:19 p.m. Daniel frowned. "That's impossible." His camera's internal clock was synced with his phone. It had never shown the wrong time before. He refreshed the gallery. The timestamp remained the same. The photo claimed it had been taken 5 minutes in the future. Daniel felt a strange unease building in his chest. He zoomed out of the image again. This time he studied the road carefully. Something about the streetlight looked familiar, then it clicked. Daniel slowly turned his head toward the window beside his desk. Outside, rain continued falling on the empty street. The same yellow streetlight illuminated the pavement below. The road in the photograph was the road directly in front of his apartment building. Daniel's heart began beating faster. He looked back at the photo. The man standing in the middle of the road was clearly him, and the timestamp still said 10:19 p.m. Daniel checked the clock again. 10:16 p.m., 3 minutes left. A nervous laugh escaped his mouth. This has to be some kind of glitch, but deep down he wasn't sure anymore. Daniel continued staring at the photo. His fingers tightened around the camera. 5 minutes into the future, that was impossible. Technology didn't work like that. Cameras recorded moments that had already happened, not moments that were about to happen. But the timestamp on the screen remained unchanged. 10:19 p.m. Daniel looked back at the digital clock on his desk. 10:17 p.m., 2 minutes left. A strange feeling began growing in his chest. Fear mixed with curiosity. If the photo truly showed the future, then something was about to happen outside. Daniel slowly stood up from his chair. Rain tapped softly against the window as he stepped closer to it. The street outside looked exactly like the photo, a narrow road, one streetlight glowing faintly through the rain. Fog forming near the ground and no one else around. Daniel checked the clock again. 10:18 p.m., 1 minute. His heartbeat began pounding in his ears. "Okay, let's test this," he whispered. He grabbed his jacket from the chair and quickly walked toward the apartment door. Part of him wanted to stay inside, to ignore the strange photo and pretend it was just a glitch. But another part of him, the part that had always chased unusual photographs and strange moments, wanted to know the truth. Daniel opened the door and stepped into the hallway. The building was quiet. Most of the residents were probably asleep. He hurried down the stairs and pushed open the front door. Cold air hit his face immediately. Rain had slowed to a light drizzle. Daniel stepped onto the sidewalk and looked at his phone. 10:18 p.m., 30 seconds. He swallowed nervously, then he walked into the middle of the road. Exactly where the figure in the photo had been standing. The street was silent, no cars, no pedestrians, just the faint buzzing of the streetlight above him. Daniel looked around, nothing happened. He laughed softly, see, just a weird coincidence. Then his phone vibrated, the time changed, 10:19 p.m. At that exact moment, Daniel heard something behind him, a sound, slow footsteps. Daniel froze. The sound of footsteps echoed softly on the wet pavement. Slow, heavy, each step deliberate. Daniel slowly turned around. At first, he saw nothing. The road behind him was covered in fog, illuminated only by the distant glow of another streetlight. But then he noticed movement, something shifting in the mist, a shape tall. Standing several meters away, exactly where the shadow had appeared in the photograph, Daniel's breath caught in his throat. The figure was barely visible, it looked like a person. But something about its proportions felt wrong. Its limbs looked too long, its posture slightly hunched, and its head tilted in a strange angle. Daniel tried to speak. "Hello," no response. The figure didn't move, it simply stood there, watching. Rain dripped from Daniel's hair as he took a cautious step backward. The figure stepped forward, Daniel's heart skipped. The movement was slow, almost unnatural, like something imitating the way humans walked. Daniel pulled his camera from his jacket pocket. Instinct took over. If something strange was happening, he wanted proof. He raised the camera and aimed it at the figure. The lens struggled to focus through the fog. The shape remained blurry. Daniel pressed the shutter. Flash. For a brief second, the bright light illuminated the street, and Daniel saw the figure clearly. Its skin was pale, almost gray. Its eyes were completely black. And its mouth stretched into a smile far wider than any human smile should be. Daniel stumbled backward in terror. What the hell? The figure took another step forward, closer now. Close enough for Daniel to hear something strange. It wasn't breathing, it wasn't speaking, but a faint whispering sound filled the air, as if multiple voices were murmuring at once. Daniel turned and ran. Daniel sprinted toward his apartment building. His shoes splashed through puddles as he ran across the road. He didn't look back. He didn't want to see if the figure was still following him. He burst through the front door and slammed it shut behind him. His chest heaved as he leaned against the wall. What was that? The hallway lights flickered slightly. Daniel forced himself to breathe slowly. After a moment, he remembered the camera still in his hand. The photo. If the camera captured what he saw, then maybe he could prove he wasn't imagining things. Daniel opened the gallery. A new image appeared at the top of the screen. His hands trembled as he opened it. The photo showed Daniel standing in the middle of the road, just like the first image, but this time the image was clearer, and Daniel wasn't alone. Behind him stood the tall shadow figure. Its long arm extended toward Daniel's shoulder, its black eyes staring directly into the camera. Daniel felt his stomach twist. That's impossible. He had been facing the figure when he took the picture. So how could the camera capture it standing behind him? Daniel zoomed in. The creature's face filled the screen. The same pale skin, the same unnatural smile, but something else caught Daniel's attention. The creature's reflection appeared faintly in the wet pavement, and in the reflection it looked closer. Much closer, almost touching him. Daniel slowly lowered the camera. The hallway around him suddenly felt colder, then he felt it, a cold sensation right on his shoulder. Daniel's entire body froze. The cold touch remained on his shoulder, heavy, unmoving. His breathing became shallow. Slowly he turned his head, but the hallway behind him looked empty, no figure, no shadow, nothing. Daniel stumbled backward toward the stairs. His mind raced. Was the creature still outside? Had he imagined the touch? He checked the camera again. Another photo had appeared. Daniel's heart dropped. The new image showed him standing inside the hallway of his apartment building, but something was wrong. The camera angle looked strange, as if the photo had been taken from behind him. Daniel zoomed in slowly. Behind him stood the same shadow figure, closer than ever. Its long fingers rested on his shoulder. Daniel dropped the camera. The device hit the floor with a loud crack. And the hallway lights suddenly went out. Darkness swallowed everything. The only sound left was the faint whispering, dozens of voices speaking at once. Daniel tried to run. But something grabbed him from behind. The whispers grew louder, then silence. The next morning, police found Daniel's camera lying in the street outside his apartment building. The memory card contained only one image, the final photograph. It showed Daniel standing under the streetlight in the empty road, his face filled with terror, and behind him the tall shadow figure. Smiling, Daniel Carter was never seen again. But some residents in that neighborhood say that late at night, when the fog rolls in, people sometimes hear the sound of a camera shutter in the darkness. And if they check their phones afterward, they might find a photo in their gallery, a photo they never took, a photo taken a few minutes into the future. And in that photo, someone is always standing behind them, watching, waiting.